Good afternoon, and welcome to the January 2012 meeting of the Thousand Oaks Council on Aging. Commissioner Fotheringham, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice.
Francine, will you call the roll, please? I said please.
Oh, this one works. Happy New Year, everyone. Commissioner Borghi is absent. Commissioner Fotheringham.
Here.
Commissioner Grimm.
Here for the new year.
Commissioner Healy. Here. Commissioner Loomis.
Feliz Año Nuevo.
Commissioner Norkin.
Here.
Commissioner Shentes. Here. Commissioner Searden. Here. And Commissioner Wing.
Okay, item agenda number 3. Sorry? Item agenda number 3, item agenda, I can say that. Item agenda number 3 is public comments. First up, June Glassmeyer. June? June is our California Senior Legislature representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to talk about Senior Congress 8, which is going to be February 1st at St. Max Church, and reservations are requested, and you can call, who can you call? Tell me what it is. I can't see. Okay. At any rate, the topic is Eat, Play, Sleep, Healthy Senior Living. Reservations are requested, and I hope to see you there. All right. I have bad eyesight, okay? Obviously.
Yes. All right, it's February the 1st, and the phone number is 818-880-1054. Again, 818-880-1054. Thank you, June. Next up, from Senior Concerns Advocates, Brenda Birdwell. Brenda?
Good afternoon and Happy New Year. It's good to see all you back here again today. My name is Brenda Birdwell, and I do advocacy and outreach for Senior Concerns. Senior Concerns is a nonprofit social services agency for seniors, their families, and caregivers. The Advocate and Care Management Program, around since 1985, provides education, information, and resources regarding Medicare, Social Security, housing, and so much more. The team of senior advocates and care managers offer their services in private one-on-one consultations and in community classes. Along with Betty Berry and I, who have offices at the Global Senior Center, we also have office hours at the Simi Valley Adult Center, the Senior Concerns Center at 401 Houghton Camp, and beginning in January at the Moore Park Senior Adult Center. Betty's weekly column, Senior Advocate column in the Ventura County Star, lists our upcoming happenings. The next thing we have going on at the Senior Concerns location at 401 Houghton Camp is next Tuesday, January 10th from 4 to 5:30. We're continuing our Caregiver Roller Coaster series with Who Can Help. On Wednesday, January the 11th at 11 o'clock, I'll be teaching a Healthy Living pre-class at the Simi Health Enrichment Center in Simi Valley. On Wednesday, January 25th, will be my first morning at Moore Park Senior Center doing one-on-one counseling. On Wednesday, January 25th at 1:30, Betty Berry will be presenting a Will You Pass Your Next Driving Test seminar at the Simi Valley Senior Center. Senior Concerns Adult Day Center, again, is at 401 Houghton Camp Road. The number is 805-497-0189. And Betty Berry and I, Brenda Birdwell, are at the Goebel Senior Center. The number there is 805-495-6250. And all of this information is available on our website, www.seniorconcerns.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. And now we come to our scheduled speaker for this afternoon. Our guest speaker is Lori Michael. Lori is president and founder of 50 Plus Fitness. and is a certified personal trainer and fitness expert. Now, Lori focuses on active adults, ex-athletes, and seniors, and she understands how to work with people who want to protect their bodies from the slings and arrows of life while improving their balance, strength, self-confidence, and vitality. In other words, Lori is here to try to teach us how to live well and age well. Lori, welcome.
TOTV, I'm going to the front. Gentlemen, you can actually stay seated for now. Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody. Happy New Year. So what I thought that I would do for you and for the television audience is I'd like to start with some postural exercises, which is why I indicated that it's probably best to sit down right now. But whatever pleases you, you can come around and sit in the front of me. That's fine. So if you would, please put down any of the papers that you have on your lap or food, because I know we just finished with lunch. And I'm going to have a seat as well. Okay, so I'd like you to please uncross your legs if your legs are crossed. You don't want to increase your blood pressure. And I want you to think about your tummy. And I know it's probably very full right now, but behind that little pouch, and I think we all have a little one, is some muscle, important muscle. And then in the back here are our postural muscles. So as we age, one of the things that happens is we start to go like this. And there's not a lot of interesting things down here, but what I want you to do is concentrate a little bit more on sitting upright. Okay, so in order to do so, I want you to get your behind in the back of the chair. These are actually really good chairs. I wish half the classes that I taught had chairs like this. And I want you to not put a lot of pressure on the back of that chair. You might want to resist that. And for those of you who are at home, if you get a regular chair that has a straight back, also try not to lean too much behind the, lean too far back on the chair. And now I want you to put your hands, I'm going to put one hand on your tummy, okay? No comments. Don't let your head go into spinning into, oh my gosh, I ate too much over the holidays and I ate too much now. And so I want you to start thinking about flattening that tummy by thinking about making it flat on the inside, okay? It's part of your core muscles. So I want you to take a nice deep breath in and expand your lungs, expand that belly. Exhale, pull it in just a little bit. As you exhale. Inhale, and now exhale. One more time. Inhale, and exhale. Good, and relax the shoulders and neck. Don't try to hold any tension. Very nice. Okay, so I want to tell you a little bit of a little story, okay? When I was 16, 17 years old, I weighed 152 pounds. Now, I know that you've probably heard a lot of stories about people who have been overweight, they lost weight, and that is great, and it is great. My story was about somebody who had absolutely no self-esteem. I was very friendly, I was outgoing. I came from a home where I don't remember getting any messages about how good or even bad I was. I sort of flew through life. And I always had a lot of energy, but I weighed 152 pounds when I went for my college physical. I was devastated because I never got on the scale. And even though at 16, 17 years old, I was overweight for me because I'm only 5'2", or I was then. I don't know what I am now. I felt kind of uncomfortable, but I was a thin kid growing up. If you ever saw pictures of me when I was younger, I was thin. I always had good arms, too. I won't show off the arms today, but I had good arms. Anyway, so I went through a series of days where I wanted to hide from life. My mother tried to entice me and motivate me by saying, Lori, I'll take you to Bloomingdale's if you lost weight. Okay, all I did is I went home and I ate more. Okay, that wasn't it. I didn't feel inspired. I didn't feel motivated. Then years later, I would go to Overeaters Anonymous. I went through a different series of different types of programs to lose weight. And then what happened was, this is when the light bulb went off. I moved to California from New York. If you can't hear it in my accent, I am from New York. When I came here, I wanted to make friends, so I joined a running club. And in the running club, there were people of all different sizes and shapes. And I found that I really had a lot of energy and I can keep up with the running club. And the weight started to melt off. And I realized, oh my gosh, that's all I needed to do was exercise a little bit more. I already exercised before, but now I was really keeping up a certain program because my motivation at that time was meeting friends, maybe meeting a new boyfriend, and feeling better about myself. I don't think I was ready before. When I lived in New York, everything was old school and I was used to my life, but here I had a new start and I wanted to make a good impression and, you know, attract somebody and not worry that they thought that I was too heavy. The gentleman who was the coach of the team, at that time, Paul must have been about 68 years old. And I thought, God, that is just great. You know, it seemed like an old person to me at the time, right? When you're younger and somebody's 65, 68 years old, like, they're old. What do they know? He knew a lot, and I felt really inspired. And I started thinking that I had this attraction towards working with older people. My grandparents, of course, were older. They inspired me. Paul was a runner and a coach, and he used to talk to me about all these wonderful things that he experienced working with older adults as well, and that was really the kicker for me. So from that point on, I always seemed to be attracted towards older people. But the point of the story is to tell you that no matter who was saying to me, oh, Lori, you would look better, you have such a pretty face, oh, you know, whatever they thought would turn me on, none of it worked. None of it worked. So I'm going to go back to my notes. And as you're sitting here and listening to what I have to share with you, I want you to think about that posture. If you get tired, okay, you can go into a slump, but come out of it perky. Okay? All right, I'm going to move back over to the desk. Okay, so one of the things that you might not realize that as we get older is that for every decade of life, from when we are 30 years of age on, we can put on as much as 7 pounds, lose 7 pounds of muscle. Does anyone know what 7 pounds or 10 pounds look like? If you've ever gone to a gym and someone said, okay, this is what it looks like to lose a certain amount of pounds, it's amazing to me. I don't even think the chickens I cook are 7 pounds, okay? So every decade of life, if you're not moving, that's what you can lose. Half of us have trouble bending over and tying our shoes by the time we get to be 65 plus. Half of us can't even walk a quarter of a mile without stopping. And the one thing that scares me the most about my mom and my stepdad is that 1 out of 3 people will fall this year and 50% will fall again. Muscle. You need to increase your muscle. So what does this have to do with motivation to exercise and inspiration? A lot. Because sometimes those statements can scare people. So what I want to do today is share with you some 3 main points about motivation. What is it? Understanding the readiness of change. What theoretically happens when you're trying to make decisions about anything, whether it's losing weight, starting an exercise program, updating your resume if you're looking for a job, it doesn't really matter. And what are the tips to put you into action? So I'll start off with good old Webster. Webster's dictionary says that motivation is defined as the inner urge that moves a person to action. Motivation refers to the need, drive, or desire to act in a certain way to achieve a certain end. Okay? The inner urge. So in the case of what happened to me when I was younger, it wasn't that my mother enticed me with taking me to Bloomingdale's. I went the other direction. She was trying to impart her values on me, even though I wanted to feel that way and look really great in those clothes, whatever those were going to look like. That was the outside. It wasn't that inner urge that I felt was important. So in relation to understanding motivation, something called self-efficacy kicks in. So to understand motivation, you need to understand self-efficacy, which is an individual's belief in their capabilities to perform a course of action. So let's say you've had physical therapy. I've had it. Many people that I know have had physical therapy. What happens when it's over? Do you revert back to your old habits? Or do you feel that, oh, okay, now I have this power to move on. I learned something new. I can avoid re-injuring myself. So that's what the self-efficacy, that's where that kicks in. Again, that's that inner urge and that capability of performing a certain action to attain a certain outcome. Most people, the reasons they give for exercising could be, my daughter sent me to you, Lori. My husband wants me to exercise. I know I've put on weight. Big deal. I've gone through menopause. It happens. I hate to exercise. What are they trying to do to me? You're laughing. It's so true. I get those calls all the time, and my mind goes into, this isn't going to last. Sometimes it does, and I'm really happy when it does, but it's like peeling the onion. You can't force anything on anybody. So, stages of readiness. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of this, but there are actually 6 different steps that our mind goes to automatically. We don't really think about it, but it's interesting to analyze it a little bit when you're making a decision about change. The first is pre-contemplation. Boring. So I called it apathetic and overweight. So you're thinking about making a change. Most of the time you ignore it, you procrastinate. Okay, no big deal. So something like enters your mind, oh, that might be a good idea, and you pass on it. It could be that you saw a friend of yours lose a lot of weight because maybe they got involved in an exercise program. Then there's the contemplation. Thinking about it, is it for me? Is it for the other person? I guess if you bug me enough, I might decide to take some action, but I'm still pretty apathetic and overweight. Oh, and lazy. Lazy. Then there's the preparation. How many of you are procrastinators? And just, you don't want to start. You call around for classes at a gym if you're thinking about exercising, because remember now, the topic is motivation to exercise. So you call around a couple of gyms and maybe get some rates, call a personal trainer, get some rates, and then maybe you go to a gym, you take a tour, you look at the equipment, you start, you can be somewhat judgmental, but you're getting a little closer here. You're starting to prepare for what you might decide to do. And remember, when you make the decision to do something, these stages just blend. Then you take action. Maybe you hire a trainer, you've joined a gym, but you're only going once a week, taking one day at a time. You're maintaining, okay? We're into stage 5. You're maintaining. You're doing this probably now for about 6 months. It's a habit. And then comes the stage after you're maintaining. Congratulations, you're there. Now you got to stick to it. As it become a habit, you having a good time? Because if you're not having a good time, forget all of this. So the hardest part to be in is the maintenance, because that's where you can slip back into all the other stages. You have to be really, really careful. When I read this, I started thinking about things, frankly, other than exercise for me, because it's such a part of my life that if I don't do it, I miss it terribly. I try not to get very obsessed about it, because I know that that's the other extreme, but I enjoy it so much. Now, I would like to have you think about when you exercised, and it's not because, well, maybe it's because somebody bugged you, but it was something that you got curious about and you wanted to exercise and you enjoyed it for a short period of time. And I don't expect anyone to necessarily share their stories, because I think in your mind you're all thinking, you know, what maybe was the turn on to go exercise. I was talking to somebody at lunch today who told me that she goes to the gym quite often and she loves it, and her husband's working with a trainer who is also an older adult, and it's working out really well and loves it. And I saw her face light up when she was sharing it with me, because it really does extend your life. It really does. For all the reasons that we read about, how it helps if you have any cognitive impairment. Of course, the physical results they're endless. They're endless. So I wanted to share with you a couple of tips that I thought would allow you to consider what might be a possibility for you if you're thinking about the exercise. Appoint yourself the president of your fitness decisions. It might sound a little bit corny, but what that means is try not to allow well-meaning friends or relatives force you into another gym membership that you're not ready for. Maybe you just want to go out and walk. You don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to be around other people if you're not a people person. Just go and start to walk. So decide right then and there to do a little something. Then the big why is another tip. Ask yourself if you even want to exercise at all. If the answer is that there's that outside nagging force, your efforts are doomed. Don't even try. Really. Just ignore that and just put it away for a later date. But if you decide that you want to get fit because you want to feel stronger and healthier and hold your grandchildren and see your grandchildren and get into that SUV that their mom is demanding you get into, well, yes, that might be something you want to consider. I was working with a woman who said, Lori, I want to be able to, this is where I got the idea from, because I don't have young grandchildren anymore. Actually, I'm Aunt Lori. I have 10 grandchildren, but long story. My husband's 78, and he started early, I started late, and so I'm Aunt Lori to 10 of his grandchildren. So I have a client, and she said, her name is Emma, and Emma said, Lori, I want to get into my daughter's SUV. And the step is she showed me like this. Or maybe in her mind it was like that, but maybe it was like this. But she had trouble getting in and out of the car. You know, she'd have to slide her tush in and then move her legs around, and it was hard. So we worked on practicing that. So I do a little bit of combination of personal training that overlaps a little bit with physical therapy. So we're doing that, and she's able now to get into the car a lot easier than she did before. So that's where I was going with that about getting into SUVs. Enjoyment is the key. Less is more. If you want to, the new year is here, and you made your resolutions, and I'm going to go for it. I still recommend you go a little slow. Don't rush into it, because then by Friday, you're done. You're fried. All right? You've done so much. It's wonderful to be ambitious, and you're laughing, right? Is this not true? And then by Friday, like I said, you're done. So make sure that you're enjoying it, and it's not, you didn't take on too much. Some people don't think about dance as exercise. I love to dance. Dancing is a great exercise. I know golf is an exercise. My father golfed most of his life until he had a stroke. Movement is exercise. Gardening is exercise. You don't have to go and pump iron necessarily. Movement. So then, how about giving yourself some reward? Not food, but maybe give yourself some type of reward that would be concrete for you. For instance, for me, I was able to write down in my diary, I did this today, when it wasn't a habit yet. I did it today, and I'd read that back every single week, because no one wrote in that book but me. That was my reward. I got to reread what I really started to do. I've been writing like all my life journals. You have to be realistic about your changes. If you're going for it because it's a resolution and you're trying to go at an even pace, also remember that the smaller changes are more realistic. It might take you 6 months to lose half the weight you might want to lose, or get to the point where you can be on a treadmill for 20 minutes to a half hour if you've done nothing before. So you have to give yourself the credit for the small changes. Use variety. So one of the tips that I wrote down is, my friend Tessa started with a circuit workout. If you're not familiar with what a circuit is, let's say that you go to a gym, and there have been gyms over the years, Curves and some other gyms, and you go in and there's various machines, and you go from one machine to the other, to the other, to the other. And that's great. You have to make sure that after you do that for a number of months, you still can manage to motivate yourself to do it again, because it could get a little tedious. But doing a circuit training, as she does, is great, and then she reverses it. She changes it all up, but she makes sure she gets through all those machines in the period of time that she's at the gym. So that would be a great example. We have this need to feel engaged when we're exercising, and the variety is really the key. For me, I spin on Monday and Wednesday. I take Pilates on Tuesday. I take yoga on Saturday. I walk 4 miles around Westlake with my friends on Sunday. I'm always mixing it up. Well, maybe I'm a little bit wacky, but I like variety in my life, and I'm never bored. And I always make sure that I take myself, for me, to the max that I can, so that I'm not thinking in my head, oh, when is this going to be over? So, for any of you who are doubtful about if exercise is something that's of interest to you, you have to add the variety. And then make it social. I haven't talked very much about bringing somebody with you. Bring somebody with you if you're the kind of person that wants to exercise, but you want a buddy. Make sure that person is of equal, you're equal. There's nothing worse than playing a tennis game and you can't get the ball over the net, and you brought somebody with you and they're just slamming that ball. That was me. I didn't play tennis very long after that. So you have to bring the person that is pretty much your equal. Otherwise, one of you is going to keep going and the other one is going to be left in the dark. So making it social is really important. A like-minded person to work out with and of similar fitness level. Give yourself a break, because perfectionism is a killer. it goes back to the earlier tip that if you think that you can do it all at once and you want to go gangbusters, that could be because you have this perfection complex and you have to do it perfect and right and if you're going to do it at all. So I have an A personality, and I used to feel that I might be a quitter, but not as an adult, especially since I started my business. I had a business divorce with a gal, and out of that came my desire to do what I do for a living now. And I studied every single day, 12 hours a day. I wasn't working at the time. I did nothing but study for my exam. And I took the exam in half the time. So I was motivated to move as far away from my ex-partner and that business, and doing what I do for a living now was the thing that really got me going. Now, of course, if someone would have said to me 6 months before that, hey, Lori, I think that you should go be a fitness trainer of older adults, I would have said, yeah, okay, sure. But it sort of all happened when it was supposed to happen. So that idea about being a perfectionist, if you can't do it right and fully now, don't beat yourself up. And I'm not here to say you have to start this minute. I mean, here we are, the 4th day of the new year, and I'm not trying to poo-poo anything about exercise. The thing is, you got to think about it and take those necessary steps if you really want to get healthier and improve your body and your mind. And do what you can as long as you can. If your workout is planned for 10 minutes, do 10 minutes this morning, later on today, just go for a walk, and then come back home and do whatever you're doing, and then the next day add on. I was reading in Prevention magazine, and there was a woman. So you see the pictures in Prevention magazine, the thin person and the heavy-set person? And there's probably, 6 months to a year difference between the person, and they've lost anywhere from 50 pounds to 150 pounds. And the one story that hit me, because I would sometimes go out running and jogging, is first day she went out, she left from her front door and she went down to the corner, which was about 5 houses away. She turned around, came home. She says, okay, I got out there. The next day she went out again, and obviously, you know how this goes. She went down to the next corner. Then what she started doing over a period of time, and she was doing this a little every day, she started then counting the stop signs and how many stop signs that she would pass. And I want to know the follow-up to that, because just like the Biggest Losers, so what happens after they lose the 200-something pounds? What happens after? Do they keep it going or not? What's the percentage of the people who keep it going? I'd love to know. I don't know if you can find that information out, but those statistics are very important to me, because it's just just good information to know. But with this woman, she would start counting the mailboxes. So then, of course, she got into doing a half marathon, and then she did a full marathon. And I think the time that she started to do this, she was 35 years old. And it just warmed my heart to think that, because if you do take the little baby steps, miracles happen. Just miracles happen. I think this would be a good time, because I don't know how much more time that I have, Jim, but I think I'm going to come up to the front of the room and let the TV audience participate in this so that we all stay awake. Okay? All right, so I'm going to switch over to the mic, and TOTV, here we go. Okay, I'd like everybody to please stand if they were sitting during the last segment. Okay, so stand for balance purposes with your feet just a little bit apart, okay? And bend your knees just a little bit and straighten your knees. Think about the breathing you're going to inhale as you bend your knees ever so slightly. Exhale as you straighten your knees, pulling your tummy. I know. Inhale, bend your knees ever so slightly, because I don't know what your conditions are out there in TV land, so I want to make sure that your knees are safe. And again, little bend. And exhale. Okay, so now let's bring our arms up as we bend. Inhale. Watch your neighbors there. And exhale, bring your arms down. If you touch your neighbors here in the audience that I'm looking at, and you too, if you're doing a little group at home, just make sure if you touch your neighbor, just say hi. Inhale. And exhale. Again, inhale. And exhale. Last time. Inhale, bring your arms up. And exhale, bring it down. Good. And just I want to see a couple of shoulder rolls, bringing your shoulders up and back. I like to bring a little sex into this, so kiss your shoulder blades together. Okay, that's a little sex. And shoulder blades up and back. A little more sex. What was the comment there about the sex, huh? Okay. And bring the shoulders up and back. Good job. Good. And just to stretch your neck a little bit, again, keep your feet a little bit apart, and just gently turn your head to the right. And center. And turn your head to the left. And center. Now try to keep your body straight on, so you're just going to gently turn your head to the right and just keep it there for a moment. Good. And center. And to the left. This is how I start my arthritis program. Just go from head to toe. And now with your chin, think of it as a pointer, and you're just going to make circles around the clock. I won't tell you to go one way or the other. Just make one circle with the chin safely around and back. And the other way. Try not to bring your head too far back. Your neck isn't going to be all that happy. And relax. Good. One more deep breath in. Bring your arms forward. And exhale. Good. Now, I'm going to have everyone slowly sit down in the chair. Whip, 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 whip. Slowly. So, in 4 counts, you're going to hit the bottom of the chair. Not the floor, the chair. Okay, Jimbo, here we go. And, oh, one more thing. I think that you are close to the back of your chair with your legs are touching, because we're in somewhat close quarters. Not you in TV land, just here in the audience here. And TV land, I have to be crazy. Okay, so, and we're going to sit down slowly and rest. Okay, so how about in 3, I'm going to get you up. Use those power muscles. You know what? We lose some of those muscles as we get older. Okay? So probably someone's thinking, so what do we gain as we get older? Grandchildren. Okay. What's that? White hair. White hair. Yeah, all that stuff. Okay, on the count of 3, I'm going to have you get up, be safe about it, and smart. And 1, 2, 3, up. Excellent. And down in 4 counts. You're going to totally sit down in 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Another time. Up in 3. 1, 2, 3, up. Excellent. And down in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know, some of us do plop. It's like inevitable. Last time you do this, we're going to stand up quickly on my cue, but as we sit down, I want you to pull your belly in, but don't hold your breath. Just pull your belly in a little bit. Use those muscles. It's almost like a corset around your waist. It protects your back. So let's do that on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, and let's stand up. Very nice. And slowly down, pull that tummy in. Think about small on the inside, and have a seat, nice and slow. Don't go too fast, and down. Excellent. Very nice. Okay, so I know that some people have questions. I have arthritis, this hurts, that hurts. the thing is that you have to make sure that you pick the right person to work with you. I remember when I joined my first gym, they said, okay, you can have a personal trainer. And I thought, oh, I don't need a personal trainer. I know what to do. I didn't really know what to do. Okay? I knew how to run. I knew that if I did something wrong, I felt it the next day. I don't mean muscle fatigue, because I like the muscle fatigue. It meant that my muscles hadn't been working and now they were alive, and that subsides. But I wanted to make sure that I didn't injure myself. So I figured I'd go through the program, and I work with somebody who was like 10. And she was okay. She was okay, but I found that I need somebody who was more my peer to show me what to do. Somebody who understood the human body a little bit more than, I wasn't in, my intention was not to run a race. So anyway, you go to a gym and you pick the right person to show you. Or if you notice somebody who's got really good form and they think that, it looks like they know what they're doing, you can follow that routine. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, I exercise, I know what to do, but you have to be careful not to injure yourself. You've been going along for so long, and you just want to make sure that you don't injure yourself. So questions come up about warming up, and I think warm-ups are good. I usually try to work with people to warm them up by moving a little bit. I'm going to stand up for a second. So I move a little bit with my clients, depending upon the age, of course. Some people are not very mobile. So we warm up a little bit the legs, do some breathing exercises, doing some of the exercises I showed with you. And then you move on to some other things. You have to change it up. So if you like to use weights, you use weights. If you like to use bands, you use bands. It's resistance. And you just have to, what I think is one of the most important things in exercise is to be strong around this whole area. There's 24 muscles in the core. And those words, the core muscles have been used and used and used. And they're important because there's 24 of them. And it's all around your torso. And when my husband used to say to me, Lori, hold in your stomach, he doesn't say that anymore. I've never had a flat stomach. So if you've never had a flat stomach, you might not ever have a flat stomach. Because if I don't have it at 57, I'm not going to have it. If I didn't have, excuse me, hello, I just gave away my age, but that's okay. If I didn't have it at 25, I'm not going to have it at 57. I always had a little pooch. But back in here, I am strong. And somebody like myself who had a really bad back injury doing yoga, not to put down yoga, but I wasn't paying attention enough. I wasn't the yoga instructor. I wasn't paying attention enough. I hurt my back. And I fell to my knees, and I was at that time in bed for 4 days. I started learning about core exercises. No more back pain. Knock on. Okay, no more back pain. I learned. Exercise isn't always a miracle. I don't want you to think that it's a miracle drug, but let me tell you, I sleep better. I've gone through menopause, and I hardly have any of those symptoms anymore. Men, you don't know what that's like unless you live with a woman that has it. Okay? But it has subsided. You're so cute. What were you going to say? You were going to say something about? No? Okay. The gentleman in the audience was. I was going to ask a question. He says, "I was thinking about it." But anyway, there are some wonderful reasons to exercise, and it looks like many of you do exercise and you have a program in your life. And I congratulate you for that. I just wanted to conclude with the fact that when you're trying to make a decision about exercise or weight loss, just do it for you. Don't do it because your kids said so and they bug you. Just tell them to stop bugging you, because you're not going to get to go to Bloomingdale's and put on the new outfit. Okay? So I thank you all so much. It was a pleasure, and I wish you all the best.
We have time for some questions if anyone has one from Lori. I've got one, Lori, while you're up there. We all know how important nutrition is to living well and to feeling good. I wonder how much nutrition plays in in one's ability to stay with an exercise program? Have you found any correlation between eating well and being able to stay with an exercise program?
Absolutely. I would say that there are, I believe late last year, there was a new pyramid that came out regarding nutrition. And your body needs, for instance, protein to rebuild muscle. So if you're living on a high protein diet or a low carb diet, my best advice is really to make sure that you have everything you're eating is evenly distributed. You can't do too much of any one thing. I eat very cleanly, and over the holidays, I downed 6 C's candies in a matter of 30 minutes. I brought the box. And I would say that when you're working out, there are foods that feed your mind, and you have to be aware that if you are not eating properly, you're going to feel lightheaded, you're going to get ill. You need the nutrition to fuel your body. So it does play a huge part. I'm not a nutritionist, so I just know enough to be dangerous. Yes, Dave.
Yeah, Lori, almost maybe two parts. Can you equivocate the workstations with free weights? I mean, are they equal or do they have different functions? And secondly, how important is it to you in utilizing free weights as part of a regimen?
I think that strength training, which is using free weights, has a huge impact on an exercise program, because you need, as we get older, to build that muscle mass. Because if you don't have the muscle mass, what happens is you do, of course, lose strength. It helps in also increasing your metabolism. So if somebody is interested in losing some weight, it does increase your metabolism. So strength training is just as important as flexibility training, balance training. It's just part of the program. And as far as the circuits go, my feeling is if you're doing certain ballistic moves, in other words, if you're picking up a weight, all right, or if you're on a machine and it has weights, you don't want to do anything really quick, okay? Not unless you're much younger. You want to go slow and methodically. Maybe you can pick up the speed a little bit, but I would say that you just have to make sure that if you're referring, Dave, to machines that have weights on them, yeah, as opposed to free weights. It's just really a personal choice. People like machines, and people prefer free weights. Does that answer your question? Okay. You're welcome.
Laurie, would you please give the benefits of a Pilates exercise?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Remember when I was talking earlier about the core muscles, all these muscles in here? What Pilates does is most of the work is in strengthening the core. So Pilates can be done in a format where you're on a machine. They're called reformers, and it's a structured class where there's usually, you can have a private training or you can have 4 or 5 other people in the room, and it has, I think it's like one of the most important things that you can learn to do, because then you can take that to your other exercise programs and use those techniques that you learned. And in some Pilates classes, there's also some endurance, because you can use certain equipment and you can do what's called jump-offs, and there's certain things. So I love Pilates. Thank you. You're welcome.
I have a question. I've been looking for... I've been looking for a few years now in the area for exercise classes for seniors to prevent osteoporosis. The exercise classes that are offered that I've just read about and I knew about them are very specific. There's jazzercise, there's aerobics, there's dance, there are Tai Chi, and there's yoga. What I've wanted was just a regular sort of exercise class that in my head, from the past, I could see as people come and they exercise, but that would be geared to prevention of osteoporosis or for those of us who already have it, so we don't injure ourselves more doing the others that are very, very specific. And there's nothing in this area that I have come across that has it. That's number one. And for example, at the Y, I asked when I belonged there, and they said, well, we used to have it, but nobody ever came. And this was years ago, and so they never repeated it. I know Camarillo, I read in the newspaper that in Camarillo, they have I believe it's at the senior center, a class specifically, all kinds of exercises for seniors who attend for prevention of osteoporosis.
With regards to osteoporosis, I know that calling a class what you call a class could make the difference in whether you make or break the attendance. I have osteopenia, which is the precursor to osteoporosis. And strength training is one of the things that is of utmost importance for bone health, okay? Now, depending upon your flexibility, you can do some other things. So what you might want to look for is the descriptions of these classes, and that if you are, and you sounds like you're very passionate about this, and I don't blame you because it worries me as well, and I have improved my bone health, is talk to the Goebel Center and talk to the Y, and maybe have them incorporate some of these things and have it in the description so you feel a little bit more confident that that is going to be addressed. Because what they offer at these centers are wonderful, and I bet you anything that there are portions of the class that are dedicated to osteoporosis, because you have seniors going there and they have, various different chronic diseases, that being one of them, and I bet it's being addressed. So we can talk a little bit more after if you'd like.
Excuse me, I just kind of wanted to chime in on that since I am the supervisor at the Goebel Center. Our jazzercise class does use hand weights. There's some there, and you can bring your own. So that does incorporate the actual use of the weights and for your arms and whatnot. But as you were saying, anything that you're out there and actually moving is actually going to help a lot of your osteoporosis by staying flexible and getting weight bearing on the joints. Because if you're standing and you're moving and you're doing other things with your arms that you normally don't do anyway, whether you have weights or not, is an excellent step towards getting to that point in the first place. So all those classes at the Goebel Center are basically geared for those that are 50 plus, or those that are, you could be 20 something and have other issues going on, and the class would be just fine for you. So in essence to your question, those classes will definitely get you going and started. And we're actually running out of space to put exercise classes, so it's kind of difficult for us to continue to add because we've only got the one large room. But believe it or not, we're still doing more and more and find ourselves taking down tables and chairs. But for now, you do have a lot of offerings, so I give them a shot. And what you were referring to in Camarillo is Bone Builders, and it's through SCAN and another organization providing a class that is using some weights and some bands and some different other techniques.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I have a question. Is it better to exercise before breakfast, after breakfast? I know that exercising before you go to bed is a no-no, but when's the best time to exercise?
When do you like to exercise, Harry?
Before breakfast.
Okay, then you know what? I think I think that's important to have some nutrition before you exercise. But if you like exercising in the morning and that serves you, then you go for it, babe.
Your arthritis exercise sessions, where and when?
I teach at about 6 different assisted living communities, and I'm certified by the foundation, and I teach specific arthritis classes in Northridge right now. But you can call the Arthritis Foundation and find out where colleagues of mine are teaching Arthritis Foundation classes, and they'd be happy to help you, or you can call me and I'll find out for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lori, in terms of, and I don't know if this would apply as much to men as women, but if you are doing exercising, free weights or machines, do you recommend increasing your revolutions as opposed to increasing the weights, just continuing to do more and more, or do you think it's better to try to move your weights up?
I would say after 6 weeks of doing the same routine, that could also lead to boredom. You definitely want to increase your weights. So in other words, and you know, you're programmed somewhat. So for instance, and I was talking to somebody earlier about that, and she said that it made a difference in her body because she increased her weight load. Your body needs to be guessing. If it gets used to a routine, it will not change. So it's like being on that diet that you just don't lose, like that last 10 pounds. You need to do something to make a change. So yes, I would say increments of 2 pounds per side. Good question.
Yes, in the back. Jane.
Lori, these personal trainers that all the gyms have, they all have designations after their name. That's totally meaningless to me. Are they qualified to work with and mentor seniors or anyone who already has existing health issues, like, say, heart problems or something?
You have to ask them. When I bring back some of the questions to my own business, when I look to hire trainers, I ask them for not just their enjoyment of working with seniors, but what's their experience. I put them through a series of different questions and tests to find out what their knowledge base is, because it's very specific. And you're right, interesting enough, there's not a lot of companies out there that have specific certifications for working with older adults and chronic diseases. Some of them have additional courses that they teach, so you want to find out what that person's knowledge base is and quiz them on it. Because, for instance, if you have heart disease and you have high blood pressure, you shouldn't be doing a lot of weight training. You should really be very careful in your weight training. Not to say not to do it, but you have to be very careful because, you know, doing exercises, for instance, does increase your blood pressure. But so things have to be monitored. I monitor my older adults who do have blood pressure issues, who are diabetics and so forth, because you need to know the before, during, and after. So I would say that you should ask them certain questions, especially even about, for instance, osteoporosis, because with osteoporosis, there are certain, I'm not going to get to the front of the room now, but let's say if you put your hands on your hips and you bend forward from your hips, your back is straight, okay? That's good. That's rather than round your back. That's not good for your back. So simple things like that it's good information for you to know yourself and ask them. Does that help? Yeah, we can talk. Absolutely. You're welcome.
Lori, Jane had mentioned the trainers at the gym having letters after their name, and would you discuss a little bit about the certification process, who does that, and what those letters mean and what we should look for?
I was certified by the National Academy of Sports Medicine, and for me it was timing and locale. I wanted to get certified tomorrow, not in 6 months. I looked into other organizations. ACE was one, ACSM, which does a lot of work with the American Heart Association, American Council of Sports Medicine. There are a number of different accredited agencies that do certify trainers. I think that it's best not to take a weekend course. And it's a course that's usually given over a certain period of time. There's a textbook and there's study materials. And although it's not a 3-year course, my course was 6 months. And I did it in a lot less time because I wanted to get through it. But it was rigorous. I was not a science major. A lot of this stuff I resisted, but I learned so much. And then, of course, you know, you learn a lot in the field. But there are probably about 4 different accredited agencies that people could look into, and some are better than others.
Any other questions?
You're very welcome.
All right, we'll be continuing on with the rest of our program, but I would like to take this moment again to remind everyone out there, if you have any questions that you would like to ask of the Council on Aging, want to know about our upcoming programs, interested in getting our senior services directory, curious about our senior adult master plan, we have a new phone number. And that new phone number is 805-381-7362. 381-7362. All right, we'll now move on to our agenda item number 5, our committee reports. Nick, legislation?
Yes. If you opened almost any newspaper in the state over the holidays, you probably came across a lead article somewhere with something like this, which has appeared in the Star. It says, "State adds 745 laws." You probably had at least one of several reactions to that number, one of which might have been, you know, who knew they were working that hard? We thought they were bickering over budget issues. Another one might be, you know, aren't we overregulated now? Why do we need this many new laws? And so forth. If you read a little farther in the article, you notice that the newspaper selected a few that they considered, maybe a couple dozen in the case of the Star, that they considered notable or noteworthy. I'm not sure quite what that criteria means, what constitutes a law that's not very noteworthy, but I wanted to bring to your attention a couple that were aimed specifically at seniors, one of which authorizes the garnishment of wages against people who are convicted of financial abuse of elders. That is, if you've been the victim of elder abuse and somebody has taken your money, you have another opportunity to get your money back and so forth if the person's employed by garnishing their wages. The second one adds a new requirement on nursing homes. It requires them to notify both patients and their families within 10 days if the Department of Social Services has determined that there's a serious health or safety violation at the facility and so forth, so that if you have somebody who's in a nursing home or you happen to be in one in the future yourself and so forth, you have a mechanism of finding out if there's been a citation for a health or safety violation. There are certainly other laws that affect seniors as well. These are ones that are just specifically focused on seniors. Obviously, if you're a fan of shark fin soup, there's some legislation associated with that may be of interest to you as well. So, all right, thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Nick. All right, we move to agenda item number 6, our liaison reports. David? Legislation. That would be.
Oh yeah, VC AAA.
Me again.
Back to you,
Nick. Or
there are a couple things that I'd like to mention. One of which is that the county has lost some revenue from federal funds that had supported our nutrition program. That's Meals on Wheels and other nutrition programs in the state, and we've lost about 11% of the funding that began January 1st of this year. And so many of the programs are in a position where they need to cut back by that much. So if you happen, in spite of the fact that it's no longer 2011, you have to wait a long while for your tax break. If you happen to have some extra money and are looking for a worthwhile local charity, there are a number of them out there that help seniors with their nutrition needs and so forth, and we need to cover an extra 11% that we had covered last year and can't cover this year. The second thing that I would like to mention was a thought that I had during last month's Council on Aging meeting where we talked about transportation. And it occurred to me during that meeting that if I want to go from my home to someplace else in Ventura County, I can get into my car and I can turn on my GPS system and I can put in the address of where I want to go, and from that I can get turn-by-turn instructions on how to get exactly to the address that I need to get to. And if I make a mistake along the way, it'll correct me and tell me, you know, that, well, you should have turned right when you turned left back there, and I'm going to tell you how to get around that error. But there is no similar thing for people that are dependent upon public transportation. And obviously, if your transportation needs are confined to a particular community, such as Thousand Oaks, you can use Dial-A-Ride and get door-to-door service and not have to worry about the turn-by-turn instructions. But if you wanted to go from Thousand Oaks to Port Hueneme or Ojai and had a specific address in mind where you need to use a little Dial-A-Ride here, maybe a Vista bus, maybe another Dial-A-Ride in another community, and so forth, and you need to make those connections, there's nothing you can go to that I'm aware of, like a MapQuest on the computer that can give you sort of instructions on what the schedules are and which buses you should try to interact with, so forth. And there's certainly nothing like a GPS system that you can program in and say, what are the public transportation options that I can use, and I can carry this along, and if am I late from a bus connection and so forth, it can tell me when the next one is or what my alternative would be. I think this would be a very useful thing. I hope that we can keep it in mind. Yes, Andrea.
I just thought I'd interject. If you do have a smartphone, there are apps for that.
But,
if you have a smartphone, you can
okay.
get applications. There are apps to link into the systems to know when your plane's landing, if the bus is coming down the road for you, if you're on the right bus system to go wherever it is you want to go. That is if you have a smartphone. Also, if you go to VCTC at the Ventura County Transportation site, they have a whole listing of all the different buses. You can actually call, make sure you've picked the right route, and even with your regular phone, you can even call them, find out from them if the bus is on time.
Well, the apps that I'm aware of are things that are sort of within a system. So if I wanted to use a Vista bus, you know, I can get I can get a hold of them and I can find out what their schedule is. But if I needed to make connection, if I needed to use multiple systems of this nature, and I wanted to go from point A to point B in the county, and it involved using several of these, and I needed to make the connections, it gets a little more difficult.
There's a and it will incorporate them, but you have to have a smartphone in order to do that. But there is a way. It is just.
Do you happen to know the name of one that you'd?
Gosh, it depends on whether you have an iPhone system or an Android system, because the names of them are different, and which ones. I did download one for flights, so you can check on any airline. You can just go to your app store on your smartphone and type in bus routes or bus timing or whatnot and see what comes up. And a lot of them are free.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. Dave?
Marty, you ready for RSVP, Retired Senior Volunteer Program?
Well, January 16th is Martin Luther King Day. And one of the questions he asked was, what are you doing for others? Well, the 16th has been declared the MLK Day of Service, and our RSVP is involved in that program as an adjunct to their Hugs from Home program. And as you may or may not know, the RSVP has this Hugs from Home program in which they send basically care packages to the troops out in the field. For this special day, what they would like to do is to have people volunteer to write a letter to a serviceman. No particular serviceman, just dear serviceman, telling them how much that you appreciate their service. And if you will give those letters to the RSVP during the week before the 16th, they will put them in those packages and send them on. So we'd appreciate everyone's help in that effort. And the other item we have, in addition to that, RSVP is always interested in getting donations to put in their little care packages every month. The other thing is that starting in February, the RSVP tax preparation program for seniors and low-income others will be starting up. And at the moment we are, at the moment we're training tax preparers with all of the new laws that always go into effect every year. Thanks.
All right, we all know that Andrea is here already, but Andrea, continue with the Global Senior Center activities.
Oh, Happy New Year, everybody. I'm going to start off with what June Glassmeyer kind of talked about at the very beginning, is the Senior Congress 8. It's healthy senior living, eat, play, and sleep. It's going to be a really good event, and it's even going to be better because Andrea Gallagher is going to be there speaking about what are our choices, why they're important. And Tori Cohen, a nutritional manager from Los Robles, is going to be there. The pros and cons of our food choices. And Dr. John Horton, who's a family practice, how do social activities benefit us? And then I get to follow with what are some ways to play, so that kind of goes right into his social activities. And then Andres Giron, MD, talking about too much sleep or too little sleep. And this event is free. It has many major sponsors and through the Canal Las Virgenes Future Foundation. And you can email for a seating reservation to info@CLV as in Victor, FF.org. Or you can call the 818-880-1054 number. And that will be Wednesday, February 1st, and it's from 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., and it does include lunch and the vendors and all sorts of good stuff. So it's a really good program. I've been involved with it off and on for the past 7 years, either planning committee or helping to sponsor or whatnot. So it's a good program. Next, coming up here shortly at the very end of the month, which is coming quickly, January 22nd, which is a Sunday, from 10 a.m. to 3 at the Global Senior Adult Center. We're having our first ever Global Antiques Bazaar. And this is a fundraiser for our nonprofit Board of Commissioners, because as everybody else, we all need money to keep our center going and our programs going. And it's $5 admission for the whole event, so you can just come and do something for fun for $5. But there's also going to be evaluators. So if you've got something that's an antique or over 100 years old or a collectible, and it's open to anybody. There's no age range, so you can bring your stuff down. It's $5 per piece in to have it evaluated, which is way less than you would pay if you were trying to find an evaluator in the general county or LA or something to look at a collection that you have or a special piece. So it's $5 per piece, and they'll do a variety of different things. So we'll have about 15 vendors, evaluators. There's also going to be a silent auction, live music, some door prizes, and we'll have a little snack bar. So, again, that's going to be on the 22nd, which is Sunday, from 10 a.m. to 3. So those are two large things coming up pretty quickly here. Those are the fun parts. And if you need information about the Antiques Bazaar, you can call the Global Center at 381-2744. And we had an awful, wonderful lunch, awful as in good, on the 30th. We kind of did it a New Year's type of thing, not on the 31st. And we had over 100 people, and we had some great entertainment and some fun and some door prizes. So I want to thank everybody coming for that. So that was our ending to the rest of the festivities of December. Things that are coming up, though, now for January, we're actually going to be having a Global Senior Center Commission appointment. So those that might be interested in applying to be on our Nonprofit Center Commission, the terms start July 1st, and but you are encouraged to submit your application by February 10th. And you can either submit the application at the Global Center or to our main office at 403 West Hillcrest. Finding motivation to exercise at any age. Very, very good thing. Lori Michael will be there. Yay! Which is today. So, you just had it. So, and then you've got today's Economic Realities and Unreality series coming up January 11th. And that's going to be that's Wednesdays from 1 to 2. We are going to do a falls prevention through Huntington Healthcare Solutions. So they will cover a safety checklist, getting up from falls, learning exercises for strength, which kind of goes into this whole exercise thing because you need to have the strength to get up and down and around. And again, that'll be free, and that's from 1 to 2 on Monday the 16th. And they are going to do some balance testing. And that has been so popular. I think we are actually full because the balance testing takes a certain amount of time. But you could still call if you're interested because we'll put you on a wait list because we can always run a second one. So you're more than welcome to still do that. And we are going to be providing a trip slideshow on Tuesday, January 17th, and that's going to go over some different long-range, long-planned, 7 to 2 week trips coming up for 2012. I already talked about the bazaar and the income tax service. I know this is only January 4th, but it feels like everything's just flying past. So starting February 1st, income tax assistance will start up. And it'll still be Wednesdays at the Newbury Park Library, so that's where the February 1st part comes in. And that'll be from 9 to 3 on Wednesdays at the Newbury Park Library, and then Thursday, Fridays at the Global Center. And that'll go from 9 a.m. to 4, and it is free. You don't need to call, make a reservation, so don't call. Just come in, bring your stuff. It's basically for those that are 60 plus and any age with an income lower than $50,000 is basically that. And it's first come, first serve. And our Professors and Pastries is starting back up, and that's with Channel Islands University. And we get a wonderful professor each time, and it's free, and it's at nighttime. First one coming up is Wednesday, February 1st. It'll be a virtual tour of Panama and crossroads of the world. And then 2 weeks after that, the 15th, will be media and politics. So that could be a very interesting one. We do try to take a seating reservation so we don't outgrow the room that we do have it in. So just call. And again, our number is 381-2744. And you can always go to our website, which is crpd.org. That'll take you to the regular Canal Recreation and Park District site. But then on the left-hand side, you can click on Global Senior Adult Center, and it'll take you right there. And you can find everything that you may want. Is there any questions? No? Oh, I know what I forgot. I forgot our trips. We've got some really cool trips coming up. Yay! Whale watching. So January 13th, it's the second Friday of every month, our new trips that are coming up go on sale. So there'll be a whale watching trip. We are going to do Pageant of Our Lord. Of course, that's during March, so for Easter. And that'll include a buffet and reserved seating for the performance of the Pageant of Our Lord. And then Laughlin Riverside Resort. So that'll be March 27th through the 30th. And you'll get a free breakfast buffet and a choice buffet and great fun and friends and some good gambling. So, and decent prices. So if you're interested, come on down next Friday at 9 o'clock.
Thank you, Andrea. We move on to agenda item number 7, Commissioner comments. Harry, I believe you had...
Yes, I do. Thank you, Jim. I'd like to talk about the next edition of the Senior Buzz, which is coming out at the end of this month. It's about seniors for seniors, and we invite the community to submit articles of interest about seniors to the Council on Aging at toaks.org. And in answer partly to Nick's story about the how to ride the bus, this issue will contain a story about a user who actually rode the bus between Thousand Oaks and I forgot where, but outside of the city limits, and how she did it and what to do about getting there. So I think if you read this issue, you'll get a good insight on how to use the bus system. Thank you.
We haven't seen her yet.
Thank you, Harry. Leonard?
It's always really good news when there's a wild, rowdy crowd we've got today. It's always good news, I think, when we have new businesses opening up in the city, and as we know from previously, and I couldn't get in the other night when I tried to go over to Jim's place. I hadn't been to Red Lobster in about 40 years because I don't like to go long distances. We have a new one in TO. Jennifer, the manager there, and that whole thing, the whole enterprise have done a great job getting that restaurant up. I know they were training, but we had 2 wait persons on our table and 2 standing by in case we needed anything. For those of us that are a little bit concerned about our weight, my wife and I had lobster, thank you, and steak at 548 calories a plate, which is pretty nice. I can't do that on Fiber One. Anyway, say hello to Jennifer, and let's make both of these new restaurants that we know about work. Another one coming online, and I intend to go over there and see what that one's like. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Yes, David.
I'm just very happy that so many folks came to our event today to listen to Lori, but also just to be together with other seniors. We don't have a caucus per se, and so this is sort of our time to coffee clutch. So we're just very happy that you folks did come here and take a little time out of your day to hear about some senior issues, know that you are part of the solution, and that we can all use your help in getting through some of these senior situations. Thanks again for joining us.
All right, we move on to special event announcements. Anyone have a special event they wish to announce? Well, in an attempt to avoid the panic that might ensue once word gets out that the Council on Aging has changed its contact number, I am going to repeat it again. So our new contact number is area code 805-381-7362. And Francine, I have a question. Harry just gave our contact number as Council on Aging at toaks.org. Is that still correct? Okay. All right. Okay. Also, everybody probably knows, certainly everybody up here knows, that Francine Spriegel has moved from her offices here at City Hall over to the library. And for those of you who come to our meetings, and you're all invited to our, not only our televised meetings, but our workshop meetings, which, by the way, are held on the 3rd Wednesday of every month. We discuss what we're going to talk about, what the hot topics are. Delighted to have you come and give your input. But if you choose to come to our workshop meeting, which used to be held here at City Hall, they will now in the future probably be held at the library. So if you want to find out about that, call 381-7362. And if there are no other, Nancy?
Jim, would it be okay to mention our 2 new programs that are coming up, like in February and March?
Absolutely.
Since people are here. February, this is probably bad. I can't remember the guy's name, so hopefully
Dr. Terry Paulson.
Class, but,
no, not Dr. Terry. Terry Paulson.
Terry Paulson is going to be doing our program, which will be the first Wednesday of March, first Wednesday of February. In March, our program, we hopefully will have on the village concept, which is the person who is in charge of that program from Oakland is going to be down, a woman named Susan Poor, to present information on how you would get started with the village concept in Thousand Oaks, Ventura County. Lori just brought over something about a Pasadena village. This is where you get people together, seniors, and it's part of the aging in place concept to avoid having to move out of your home as long as possible by having services that are available and contracted. Lori mentioned to me earlier that she is a trainer for the Pasadena Village. It's my understanding now that Susan is going to be bringing people from the Santa Monica Village. So it would be a very interesting concept for people who are interested. It's like a group of people that form under a nonprofit, and they get contractors and they have social engagements and things like that for seniors to help them live in their home without feeling so alone. So that's for March. And what do we have, April yet, Jim? We have a lot of good stuff.
No, we do not.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it then. Okay. You've got 2 months in advance.
I would say that add about our February program, Terry Paulson, the theme is going to be humor, the value of laughter, and there'll be a lot of fun stuff in there too. So put that on your calendar. If there are no more comments, I have one last one. Goodbye, Maggie. It's been a good 21 years. So. This meeting is adjourned.